Chenock drove the herd deeper into the Elves' territory. He did not know what purpose this attack served, but he cared little as it gave him the chance to quench his bloodlust against the fragile Elves. He saw that the Saurian allies had stopped to perform some ritual, and cracked his whip to drive the herd faster. Let the lizards take their time, he thought. We shall claim the glory of breaking the Elves' city. Within the city, Prince Thal looked out over the approaching horde. This was the final insult. These beasts had dirtied the lands of his people with their foul feet, and in doing so had earned a painful death. Thal began giving orders to mobilize his forces. He was so focused on the coming of the herd that he did not notice the building forces of magic in the city, nor could he see the ocean begin to churn not far from the coast, a churning that heralded the coming of Tal Kriash. All right, so we have a pretty fun narrative game. Highborn Elves versus the Beast Herds, 4,500 points with a special narrative scenario. I'm not going to give away all of it up front so you guys can see how the game plays out. But essentially what's going to happen is the game is normal deployment is going to start, and the guys are going to play through 3 full turns, and then something is going to happen to change the scenario. At which time any units not engaged in combat will get a free reform. And then from that point, the game will go on for another 4 turns for a grand total of a 7-turn game. Points will be counted as normal with no other specific objectives at the moment. So let's go ahead and get into the deployment setup. All right, starting with the Elves. He went really heavy cav here. So we have a unit of 10 Knights of Rima with full command. In there is Prince Thal with the Ogre Blade, Shield, Dragon Forged Armor, and the Prince of Rima upgrade. Next to that is another 10 Knights of Rima with full command. In the forest are 20 Flame Wardens with full command and the icon of the Restless Company. With them is his commander BSB with the Hardened Shield, the Armor of Destiny, Spear, and a Longbow. Then there is 10 Highborn Lancers with full command. Next to that is 10 more Highborn Lancers with full command and the Flaming Standard. And with them is the Mage, Alora Victus, 4 spells with Pyromancy, and she has the Flaming Lance. And at the far end is the Sky Sloop with the Storm Pennant. On the Beast Herd side, starting on the left, there's obviously 2... the first chariot is different. The first chariot is a raiding chariot. The ones with the white horns, the next chariot, is a Razor Tusk chariot. Next to that is a unit of 6 Minotaurs. Hanging out with them is the Alpha Bull Minotaur Chieftain. He is the battle standard bearer for the army. He has Greater Totem Bearer, the Axe of Battle, Dragon Scale Helm, and a Talisman of Shielding. In front of that is one of the Razor Tusks. Next is a unit of 31 Longhorns with halberds. They have the Blackwing Totem on them and the Stalker Standard. In there is his Beast Lord, because we are going to remember to take advantage of the Bodyguard Beast Lord rule this time. We've forgotten it the last 2 games he's played with this setup, and we're not going to forget it this time. But he has the Blessed Sword, Bluffer's Helm, Talisman of Greater Shielding, and a Potion of Swiftness. Also there is his Spellcaster, his Shaman, or Soothsayer, I'm sorry, with the Book of Arcane Power and the Talisman of Supreme Shielding. He is 4 spells to Druidism. In front of that is another Razor Tusk. And then over here he has 2 ambushing units, which are going to be 25-man strong Wildhorn herds. with paired weapons and throwing weapons, full command, and they both have the Blackwing totem as their totem bearer for the unit. All right, so Highborn Elves dropped everything they had up front. I think the idea is to take advantage of the excessive movement, hit hard, and see what easy points they can pick up early on. So he comes just running straight at the Beastman. The Beastman player is actually a little worried about this. He's obviously outmaneuvered, and he's got a lot of 2-up armor saves to have to deal with, which he's really not all that equipped to deal with at the moment. So I know Skip right now is starting to think of how he can start chaffing stuff up and prevent this whole army from hitting his big units at any given time. So it's interesting to see kind of how this change in Michael's army, because he hasn't played like this in a long time, if ever, is really kind of changing the way Skip's having to think about the battle, which is certainly good. So we go into magic phase. The wizard gets ready to start throwing fiery burning death and kill some of the chaff, and proceeds to fail to cast his first spell, and that ends it. And so with that gone, the elves have no shooting in this army, and that's the end of Highborn Elf turn 1. So we go to Beast Herd's turn 2. And the idea is he doesn't want, I mean, he's so outranged here with these charges. So he's bringing up his units to kind of redirect and hold up the cavalry and make a no man's zone in the middle of it. He figures that just by static res, he can take out the 10-man knight units, provided that he can restrict them into coming into him one at a time instead of 2 of them hitting one unit. So he's throwing out some stuff to basically block those charge lanes, leaving the only good way to get to the meat of the army right there in the center, which I think is a very solid way to handle this. And then he ends up ambushing on both of his Longhorn units, or Wildhorn units, and he decides rather than popping them behind his opponent's army, because with the speed of the cavalry, there's no point in doing that. He decides just to go ahead and bolster his own lines. So he pops up a unit of Wild Horns on each flank, which I guess is good. It's nice to have the ambush, gives him the possibility of having done something if he was playing a different army setup. But I think just with what he's facing, he's going to need as many bodies packed together as he can get. So magic-wise, I think the only thing that went off is he ended up getting the Oaken Throne off, and that was pretty much it. Highborn Elf turn 2, because again, the beasts didn't have any shooting to really speak of, goes ahead and starts. The first unit of the Highborn Lancers goes ahead and charges one of the pigs, figuring he's going to have to start dealing with it anyway. It's good enough time as any. The other ones start moving around the hill here to work their way into the flank. Oh, no, I do remember. He did actually have good magic because he ended up buffing the Razor Tusk Chariot like crazy. He ended up getting the plus, I think it's the full-on stone strength, so it was like ridiculous toughness. So the elves decide they're going to play a little cagey, so he actually backs off the hill here to prevent any line of sight charges or any line of sight being made for charges. So I'm thinking that this is probably good for the beast because it's essentially kind of separating his strength. So I guess we'll see what happens. Magic again goes completely against the elves. He gets one spell off and it is dispelled easily, and then fails to cast his second spell, and that's it. So we go into combat. The knights don't do great. They don't lose any of their number, but they don't kill the pig either. They do a couple wounds to him. He ends up breaking and fleeing to where you see here. They choose not to pursue and just reform to decide where to go from here. So, Beast Herd's turn 2 starts off with the pig failing to rally and running a little bit farther, not quite off the board yet. And then just some rearrangement. The Razor Tusk chariot has moved so it can still see the knights that are kind of hiding behind the hill. But right now, they're kind of safe. He's hoping to get that one knight unit to charge the Razor Tusk chariot, and kind of has some counter charges ready. So I don't know if the elves are going to take that bait, but it is what it is. You also notice that he moved the other pig up onto the hill to block off one of the unit. So he shifted his no man's land a little bit to the far side of the board, but I don't think he's wanting to bring up his units. This may be playing a little cautiously. The Knights of Rima are certainly scared of these units, but I think he's got enough bodies that he probably shouldn't be all that scared of the Highborn Lancers. So I might have, kind of in hindsight, might have pushed up a little harder on that side just to kind of force an encounter at this point. But the Beastmen are holding back and kind of waiting to see what develops, which is good. Means he's not rushing into things without thinking about it. So there's some pluses there as well. Big magic thing that happened this turn. He is worried about magic going off on the Minotaurs, so he pops the MR totem on them so that they don't catch fire in the face and die before he can use them. Highborn Elves turn 3. Basically, the Elves are trying to now work around the flank. Rather than taking the bait on the charge, both of the knight units are trying to move around the hill. I guess he's relying on the strength of those units to force the Beastmen to react and kind of stick their necks out. No charges here on the other side from the Highborn Lancers. I think his plan is he wants to use his magic to eliminate the Razor Tusk before he goes in there. The other chariot moves around so it can finally see something. And that's about it. I think the Flame Wardens moved just a little bit, but not very much. Yeah, and here's just a better picture of... Oh no, this is... He did actually get a spell off. He got... I don't remember which spell, but he ends up blasting the Wild Horn unit here on the side and peels off the entire back rank of them. But not enough to provoke a panic, so they're staying where they are. Beast Herd turn 3 starts with the pig failing to rally again and running off the table. He also turns things here. He's sending the chariot around to go deal with those knights. If they're going to spend all that time circling the hill, he might be able to catch them in the flank and do some damage. And the other one here, he's just setting up to redirect the Knights of Rima with the Prince into it to keep him away from the units. At this point, he's realizing that those chariots are really just kind of big chaff, and he's using them relatively effectively here to keep the strong units away from him. Over here, we don't have really much going on. He just kind of shuffles a little bit to increase his line of sight. He wants, if the elves do come to mix it up, he's going to want to be able to counterattack effectively, which makes a lot of sense to me. So, he ends up... Oh yeah, during magic phase, he ends up getting summer growth off and growing back almost all of the beasts that, or the wild horns that he lost. He was one short because of the way he had reformed his unit. He didn't actually have enough space on the table to put that last guy in. So he got 4 of the 5 back, which isn't terrible. Suddenly, the building magical energies hit their climax, and with the sound of wind and thunder, the ancient city of Tal Kriash was drawn from the depths and broke the ocean's surface. Sekaloth looked towards the city he had so long desired, and imagined the extent of the arcane lore that was now his. But then he noticed movement in the city where there should have been none. Blue-skinned humanoids and ancient beasts of the sea were surging forward from the waves to defend the now risen city. Sekaloth did not know who these creatures were, and that angered him almost as much as seeing another in the place he had claimed for his own. Drained from the exertion of raising Tal Kriash, Sekaloth ordered his forces forward to destroy all those that stood between him and his prize. On the other side of the field of battle, a single blue-skinned form seemed to read Sekaloth's intentions, and commanded his forces forward. "Aid the Elves," he said, "for they too stand against the Ancient Ones." And so the Tritons of Tal Kriash invoked their magic and marched forward onto the land. All right, so here comes the scenario. Now there are 4,000 points of lizardmen ambushing on this section of the board, who will be counted as part of the Beastman army. So we'll go ahead and talk about their list. And I do want to say I forgot to place all of it. There's going to be my 5-man Cayman unit with full command that will be just to the left of the Stygiosaur at the far end, but it doesn't get placed until after I took this picture. But then we have a Stygiosaur with the champion upgrade for the spells. In front of that is a unit of 2 snake swarms. Next to that is my skink captain on the Taurosaur. He has the Spear of the Stampede, and the Lucky Shield, and the Engine of the Ancients. Then we have my standard unit of 32 Saurian warriors with full command and the spears and the serpent upgrade. They also have the icon of the Relentless Company. Next to them is my general. He is a firstborn veteran with the flaming lance and the armor of fortune on a normal Carnosaur. In front of that is another unit of 2 snake swarms. Next to that is 5 raptor riders with lances. Then there is a unit of 2 salamanders, and behind them is a unit of 3 Rampedon riders who marked, I want to say they marked the general's unit of Knights of Rima, and then another unit that will be coming on the other side of the board. Speaking of which, rising from the oceans are the forces of Tal Kriash, which I am using the Rules of the Dread Elves for. So starting on the right here, we have a Raptor Chariot, then an Assassin with the Nightshade Poison and the Divine Icon upgrades. Next to that, she's also the, and I don't recall what it is, but the close combat style assassin as well. Then there is a second Raptor Chariot, then a unit of 10 Repeater Auxiliaries, a Hydra, a unit of 20 Tower Guard with full command and the Banner of Blood. Hanging out with them on the front left corner is my general, a Fleet Commander Captain with the Hero Sword, Lucky Shield, and the Talisman of Greater Shielding. On the right front corner is a Fleet Commander Captain with the Razor Blade and the Armor of Fortune. He's my Battle Standard Bearer. Then there's 10 more Repeater Auxiliaries, a unit of 5 Dark Acolytes of Yema, a unit of 18 Corsairs. They have light armor, paired weapons and full command. Then there is one final unit of the Repeater Auxiliaries. So just to let everyone know, that is essentially 4,000 points of Saurian Ancients that are joining the Beastman's army ambushing in that fashion, and 4,000 points of Dread Elves, basically, that are joining the High Elves faction and they're just going to go from here as if we were playing a team game from this point on. And again, from here, there are four more turns of the game to resolve before points will be totaled up. So everybody gets their reforms. The other thing we did rule is that because I had the vanguards for the Corsairs, I got to do that, so I moved them up as such. There's not really a whole lot of other reforming going. I think the big thing is the Flame Wardens turned to see the Saurians coming up, but that's about it. I think everybody might have jiggered just a little bit. But the nice thing is, from the Beastman side, there's good targets here, and there's going to be a lot of pressure on that corner if he can bring the rest of his stuff up quickly to take advantage of it. Over here, the big thing that happened is the Knights of Rima with his general in it, the ones who are mostly unpainted, have turned to face the big monsters and the Caimans that are on that side. So he ends up, for High Elves turn 4, the Knights of Rima with the Prince charge at the Chariot. The Chariot flees and ends up, I don't remember if he ends up off the table or just somewhere in that corner. I think he's somewhere in that corner. Oh, no. Okay, I know what happened because he's been taken off the board. So he flees, doesn't get far enough, and he gets caught and dies here. So he's got his Knights of Rima still stuck in the middle of everything, facing a just absolutely beautiful flank charge from my Saurian warriors there. I'm hoping to pick this unit up. That would be fan-freaking-tastic. He does also charge the other Knights of Rima into my 5 Knights, which is just tragic. There is absolutely nothing that my Knights are going to do other than suck and die. And then over here, the Dread Elves push up hard. I'm figuring the Hydra and my Chariots can handle the Beastmen there, so I'm just kind of pushing up hard. The rest of the army really just doesn't have anywhere to go because of kind of how blocked up everything is right now. And just to make it clear, I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, I am actually playing both my Saurians and my Dread Elves, so I am on both teams, which was super confusing. Also, the main reason as to why the camera angle keeps flipping back and forth. So I know when I was going over these pictures, I was getting a little motion sick, so I hope you guys can still follow it and it's not going to be overly confusing. So magic again gets pretty much stopped. The elves have not had a good run of magic so far this game. So we go into close combat. Obviously, the Knights of Rima just absolutely face smash through my Raptor Riders. They decide to overrun rather than getting stuck in God knows what else is coming here and run off the table where you see the one guy sitting there. So we go to the Beast Herds turn 4, I'm sorry. He starts... I'm trying to remember who charged first. I think it was the... Yeah, okay. I know what it is. The Saurian warriors charge the Knights of Rima. They flee, get just to the other side of the chariot that's sitting there, and he actually loses 2 knights to the dangerous terrain of running over the chariot. That leaves me just barely within range for the swarms to charge. So I do that too, which pushes them there. I'm figuring that's like super good charge range for half the Beastman army. Maybe we'll get lucky and he'll catch him. If not, that should at least put the Knights of Rima with the general way the hell out of position, and really not give me much to have to deal with the lizards on this side. So that's kind of the line of thinking here. Over on this side, you can see the Beastmen tried that, but the Knights of Rima ended up essentially leapfrogging the Flame Wardens and staying there. I then start pushing up because in the unlikely event that he doesn't rally, it would be nice to kind of chase him even further down and away from things. Over here on the bottom corner, you can see that I have turned my BSB and my Rampadon Riders to set up a counter charge when his Knights of Rima appear back on the table. Other than that, I'm just kind of pushing up with stuff and seeing what I can get out of it. Here, the Beastmen, they pushed up, they failed both charges. Don't really go forward at all, so he pretty much realizes he's going to take some pain in the face. I think he might reform the far Wild Horn unit a little bit, but he knows he's going to be taking that Hydra and probably 2 of the 3 chariots that are over there in the face. At least that's kind of the thinking there. So he's not really sure how he's going to respond to that. Then we go to Magic. I'm trying to remember what happened in Magic. It might have been a buff. Maybe he got Stone Skin off on somebody. Actually, that makes a lot of sense. I think he got Stone Skin off on the Wild Horns. That would make a lot of sense. Then he goes into thrown weapons, and I'm thinking, I got nothing to worry about here. And the freaking Wild Horns end up putting 2 wounds on my Hydra from Strength 3 thrown weapons. I'm like, I can't win. But yeah, so that poor Hydra is hurting already. And actually, it's theoretically possible that if he goes into that unit, they're going to be able to kill it. Which is going to suck, but it's not really going to stop me from running the Hydra down his throat either. So High Elf team turn 5. I do end up trying to charge both chariots and the Hydra at the Wild Horn unit. The only one that succeeds is the one that ended up in its flank. The Sky Sloop also succeeds a charge in the front, but the Hydra and the other chariot fails, which means we've got to just absolutely light it up and do some major damage here to not just lose by static combat res, which is unfortunate. Over here, he also decides that he's going to throw away the other unit of lances at the Minotaur, basically just to try and put some hurt on him. He needs to thin them down before they can come hit anything, so that's really the only plan here. Over here, the rest of the movement, you can see up at the top, the Knights of Rima with his prince in it did rally and turn to face the oncoming lizards. The Acolytes move up towards the center to be able to throw some magical damage. Okay, he also did with his other Lancer unit with the mage in it, charge the other pig. And everything else, I run forward. The damage that he did to the Hydra reminded me he had thrown weapons, so my assassin runs over and joins the auxiliary unit here just for some extra bodies to protect her. During Magic, Immolation gets put off and is failed to be stopped by the Minotaurs, so template gets dropped right in front of the halberd unit of the Longhorns, which is probably one of the worst things that could happen to the Beastman player at this point. He also manages to get flaming swords on his knights here, so they're pretty much going to eat the pig without too much difficulty. And that's exactly what happens. The pigs get eaten, and the knights turn to look at the Longhorns. Over here, we didn't do great. Actually, we did more. He could not have gotten Stone Skin off with the amount of kills we did. He might have thrown one of the totems for his last Magic phase. I just don't remember. But either way, we go in there. Impact hits are garbage. We do a grand total of, it looks like 6 wounds. Um, we win, but he's stubborn like crazy and doesn't go anywhere. He also doesn't manage to hit my chariot at all. I think he does 1 or 2 wounds to the sky sloop. Um, and over here, yeah, the Lancers do pretty good in the fact that they killed 2 of the Minotaurs, but after that, they are absolutely curb stomped and are killed to a man by the Alpha Bull and the remaining Minotaurs. Um, Only plus side of that for Team Elf is that they didn't break and weren't run down, so the Minotaurs didn't advance any. They just died where they stood. All right, so the Beast Herds team turn 5. Uh, we go into the flank here on both sides. I forgot to show that these guys showed back up last turn, but ultimately, as you can see, it's not going to matter overly much. Because this is a Knights of Rima sandwich, and it's a bad place to be. Then over here, we tried to get some craziness going on. I end up charging with my general on the Carnosaur, and he hits in the front with the Minotaurs. We're thinking, these guys are strength 4. I have the opportunity to do some buff magic from the back of the Stygiosaur, because I'm just within range. Might keep them alive. And the idea is we can do some hurting to these elves. Yeah, they're Flame Wardens, but even with the 4-up ward from what we're putting out, we should be able to hurt them pretty bad. They may still be stubborn, but we'll kind of see where that takes us. And everything else I push up hard. I put the 2 salamanders up in the face of the Knights of Rima, because I know their shooting is going to be nothing, so I might as well use them as chaff. Mainly to bring up the big brick of Saurus Knights behind them. To get this far, I did have to pop the icon of the Relentless. Just because of the way I had to maneuver around stuff, it spent a lot of that movement. The Caimans are also coming up on the other side, being supported by the Wild Horn Raiders there. We're hoping once we can do some damage to the Flame Wardens, then we can finish them off and start driving back this front, or this flank a little bit harder, and that would make a lot of great things happen for us. And to make matters even better, I get the +1 toughness buff off on the Minotaurs, so now he's wounding them on 5s. This is going to be fantastic. It's going to be a bit of a grind, we think, but those Flame Wardens are not long for this world at this point. Over here in combat, I do not kill them to a man. They do actually kill one of the Rampedon Riders, but I open up like crazy. My impact hits weren't fantastic. I think I did like 11 impact hits and killed 3 or 4. It was something like that. But I did enough so that they broke. They get run down by the Rampedons, and my BSB turns to face the rest of the fight. Then, holy crap, things go bad. And this is actually not a great image of what happened because the Stygiosaur's in the way. But as you can see, there's not a hell of a lot of Flame Wardens missing. You also might notice the 4 Minotaurs that are sitting at the back, or the 3 Minotaurs that are sitting in the back, and one has 2 wounds on him. My guy comes in, flubs completely. I didn't inflict a single wound. Then, before that, because the elves are super freaky strong, Michael's dice just decide to say, fuck you guys. And I think he was hitting on 2s, wounding on 5s. He inflicted 11 wounds to the Minotaurs. That's killing 3 Minotaurs and almost killing a 4th before they get to swing. the Minotaurs swing back and do... The Alpha Bull does good. The Alpha Bull kills what you see gone there. But the other Minotaur didn't do anything. My general did squat. And we lose, I want to say, by 5 or 6. So I am outside of my BSB's range. I break and run off. The Minotaurs stick with exactly what they needed to. I think it was a 2 or a 3 he needed, and he sticks. So he holds and prevents the Wardens from running him down. But literally all that's left of that Minotaur unit is the Alpha Bull and the champion from the Minotaur unit that is at a single hit point, or a single wound left. Oh boy, did this turn shit on its ear. We didn't really do much to weaken up the Flame Wardens. I mean, we killed a little over a rank, but at the cost of my general running off. I mean, I didn't take any wounds, but I'm way the hell out of position to do anything now. And his Minotaurs being just absolutely demolished. This was not a good choice for us. Also, as a side note, we didn't remember this till later, but you can see it now. We forgot to dispel Immolation on our turn. So yeah, that was just bad, incredibly bad dice luck combined with a stupid moment is definitely gonna cause some problems for the middle here. Then over here, we sucked. We only killed 2 more of the Wild Horns. The Wild Horns managed to beat the Sky Sloop to death. They can't beat the Chariot. My Chariot, because I'm toughness 5. I lose, but I think we lose, or maybe we tied. I might have lost by 1 and didn't break. That makes sense. But yeah, it was bad. It was just bad. So over here, the Elves, it's time to decide to go ahead and push on. I decided that poison may be the best way to take out the Alpha Bull, so I charged in my Acolytes against the Alpha Bull, which is probably dumb. What made it even more dumb is that I had to run over the wall that they're fighting over. And I took dangerous terrain, and I killed one of my freaking Acolytes with it. So yeah, that was probably not the smartest move I ever done, but I'm helping. Then over here, we finally decide to get the charges we want. I get the other Chariot and the Hydra into the front. My Assassin kind of comes out to hang over there in the side just to see if she's needed. I don't think she's going to be, but I want her ready to get in. My thought is with me bringing this kind of pressure on the side, he's probably going to turn that big unit of Longhorns that have all his characters in it. So once this mess is cleared up, my idea is to charge my Assassin in and try and at very least kill his Wizard, or preferably, if I can make it happen, kill his Beast Lord so that unit's not stubborn anymore. That's ultimately the idea, so we'll see if it works. Over here, yeah, you can just see kind of where everything else is pushing up. I've got my Tower Guard coming in, ready to kind of move once this fight is out of the way. He's not really moving his Knights with the Wizard in it very much. He's mainly just using those as a bunker. And he might have moved his other Knights of Rima just a little bit. So I figure, you know, on top of all this, I'm going to get Breath of Corruption off. It's going to be awesome. So I got that. And then we go into combat. And I absolutely brutalize this unit. Kill it to death. Maybe not completely to death. I think they ran off the table. But I chose not to pursue with anything because I wanted to turn everything here into his flank, essentially to force him to have to turn, to leave him no other choice. That's the ultimate idea. And over here, I do exactly squat to the Alpha Bull. I do not hurt it at all. We kill the last of the Minotaurs. the Alpha Bull loses basically by static combat res. So he lost by. See, I think the Alpha Bull did a couple of wounds back, but it wasn't much. I want to say the Alpha Bull lost by 3 or 4, maybe. So he's looking at like a leadership 4 with a reroll. Fails it. I decide to send my acolytes after him who catch him and run him down. The Flame Wardens just turn. So my acolytes are over there in the middle of things, but I figure if the High Elves have been able to run around and flee things and not get caught, I should get a little of that action too, so I'm not overly worried about that. Except for the fact that when he charges my acolytes with his wild horns and I flee, I go a grand total of 3 inches and he catches and kills me. I also, on my side of things, I tried to charge the Knights Arena. They fled, so I charged the salamanders into the Flame Wardens to tie them up, and that's pretty much what this looks like. He's got a wound on his general. Maybe his general took dangerous terrain there. I don't recall. And yeah, here is him catching me because apparently only Highborn elf horses can run fast. But yeah, that's what it is. The nice thing about that is that my Caimans didn't really have anywhere to charge. So that Wild Horn unit is pushed up and could be a good target for the picking if the High Elf player decides to go for it. So I figure, okay, I can't catch him. He's fleeing with the Knights of Rima with everything. My best option here is to move up with the Stygiosaur and let loose with its Toxic Breath and kill some more of them. I mean, if I get lucky, I get him under 25% and he's not going to rally. That could be really, really good for me. Realizing the pain that is about to come on this unit, Skip decides to go ahead and throw Stone Skin on him and get some, and that's going to make those guys pretty rock hard. Then I do really, really badly with the poison, the Toxic Breath, and only killed 2 knights. So it took a couple bodies off, but it really didn't accomplish anything we needed it to accomplish. Then over here, after... This makes no sense to me in combat. So after this same unit slaughtered just a ridiculous number of Minotaurs hanging out with an Alpha Bull, they turn around on these salamanders and only manage to inflict 2 wounds. I inflict maybe 1 back. I don't do much back. But I stick, so we're not going anywhere. So that was just kind of funny to me. So, Highborn Elves, turn 7, last turn of the game. We go ahead and launch our attack forward. We got to go for points at this point because it's going to come down to that. So I hit in both chariots, the Hydra, and managed to get my assassin. I decide since it's the last turn and this unit's probably not going to break anyway, I decide to go ahead and go for the wizard, figuring those are going to be easier points with the assassin. I also luck out with a long bomb charge against the other unit of wild horns there with my tower guard. I think he stands and shoots and kills 2 of my tower guard, but I get in there and it's going to be a mess. Other than that, you can kind of see everything pushing up. He's turned his wizard over here to maybe do some shooting and see what happens. Yeah, and this is just showing everything. It does look like his general took dangerous terrain because I can't imagine anything else hitting him. I don't think they've been in combat with anything else. So, yeah, that must have been what happened. So we go into combat here, and holy crap, was this a fail? Um, I got lucky with the assassin and managed to kill off his wizard. But beyond that, the ridiculous toughness, the whole unit's toughness 8 right now. Because of the stone skin, and I can't hurt him. He ends up killing outright. His general kills one of the chariots outright. The chariot on the side takes another wound. The Hydra takes another wound. And other than killing his wizard, I didn't do anything. So he wins. Yeah, I think he wins this, or it's very close. But I'm good and nobody breaks. But this didn't really go the way I planned it, but not because it was unexpected. It was more because I just didn't kind of conceptualize how rough toughness 8 is in a whole unit, and I probably shouldn't have made these charges anyway. Then over here, the tower guard just open up. He ends up killing 2 or 3 tower guard. I kill basically half his unit. He auto breaks, and I fail to run him down. I go a couple inches, and he goes 12 and runs off. Then we go on to Beast Herds, turn 7. Oh, I didn't show it, but last turn, the BSB decides to finally step up and deal with the remainder of the Salamanders. The Phoenix Guard really didn't do much beyond that. But they end up breaking the Salamanders, running them down, and they slammed right into the Caimans on their overrun. So this is where we're at there. So this is the start of Beast Herds turn 7. Then I decide to go ahead and, just for the extra shits, I throw the Salamander into the side of the Phoenix Guard. I throw my Spearman into the front of his Knights of Rima alongside the Stygiosaur. The Stygiosaur makes it. The Spearman, or the Saurus warriors do not. And they hit an immolation that he had placed there last turn, and I lose 6 dudes. But no biggie there. Or no, sorry. I lose way more than that. Everything else I bring up here to kind of support stuff, but this is not going well. Then over here, the Caimans do okay, but this fight is kind of happening too late in the game. I beat him, maybe, or maybe we tied. I think we tied is what ended up happening. So nobody broke, and that's kind of where we're sitting. And of course, his kitted out general makes absolutely mincemeat of the poor Stygiosaur, who is all by himself because I can't roll charge rolls at all. So that's kind of where we sit after that. Over here, though, I get lucky. He didn't have the... No, he had to have had the spell off this time, because... No, he didn't, because this was their turn. So, yeah, the Stone Skin spell was gone. He didn't get it back up. Once that happened, I was able to do quite a bit more. I actually did not manage to kill... My assassin went nuts on his general, but he was left alive with 1 wound. So I'm thinking, great. I won, but he's going to be stubborn. And then the Beastman player rolls a 10 on the leadership roll, breaks, and is run down by the chariot. With the beast herds broken, the Saurian forces began their withdrawal. Prince Thal had not the strength of men at present to pursue them, and it was possible he still had another foe to deal with. The Elven Prince drove his knights around to meet the unknown army that had literally marched through the port he claimed as his realm. As he approached, several beings of noble bearing strode forth from the main bulk of the force. "Who are you?" Prince Thal demanded as soon as he was in earshot. The blue-skinned warrior smiled. "A fine way to greet one whose help allowed you to retain your throne, Thal Victus." Thal recognized the truth in the warrior's words, but he would die before he admitted that the help was actually needed. Perhaps, he said, but you have also marched a great force through lands and seas that belong to me. Several of the Tritons chuckled. You are lord of this land, yes. But beyond? The warrior shrugged. To claim mastery over the sea would be a foolish act indeed. Thal rankled at the audacity of these beings before him. But the elven prince was not a stupid man. He knew that he could little risk a new enemy, especially one who practically dwelt on his doorstep and commanded legions he was sorely uninformed of. Very well, the Elf King said. If your actions helped in the results of the battle, then of course we would be grateful. But my question remains. Who are you? And what is your purpose here? I am Vedas, and in this time I speak for the Tritons of Talcreash. You have no cause to fear us, Elf Prince, for our people have dwelt in the depths of the sea for ages, and had we wished to make war with you, it would have already been done. Our conflict is with the Ancient Ones, who would claim the city they have lost all right to, and any who would support them. Thal nodded. Then for now, he said, it seems that we are allies. All right, so after everything is said and done, this turned out to be a victory for the joined forces of the Highborn Elves and the Dark Elves, Tritons of Talcreash. This was kind of a crazy game. We definitely thought with this being a big major turning point in the story, we wanted to do something different. And the idea of like ambushing entire armies onto the field to support each other was pretty cool. I don't know if it worked as well as we were hoping, just because the time limit we had to put on it, only going 7 turns. I don't know. It was an okay game. It's hard to kind of judge any of the particular armies because of the way things were done. I certainly like my Dread Elves. And I know I put Dark Elves here, but I'm still learning. But yeah, they were fun. Those chariots are just absolutely killer. Having something in the Dread Elf's army at that point cost with toughness 5 and the impact hits. I mean, when the book gets redone, if those things aren't completely changed up, I would be absolutely stunned because they're just amazingly good. It was also nice to kind of get a chance for the assassin to do what the assassin's supposed to do, so that was pretty neat. The Saurian side of things, it sucked. I didn't really have much impact on anything. The only thing I did is kill the one Knights of Rima unit with my BSB, which I do have to say the character on the Taurosaur with the Spear of the Stampede is amazing, and I highly recommend it to anyone. But the army I brought was a little too slow. I do not like the normal Carnosaur compared to the Alpha. And I think part of what may have gotten me in trouble is that I was still thinking of it in that same terms, that it was like the guy on the Alpha, and just the damage output on the two are in entirely different worlds. And just in general, where I had to come in, given the scenario, I just wasn't able to bring much to support. I was in a much better position with the Dread Elf forces to hit the side of the Beastmen because they had stayed so stationary. And just to let you guys know, the guys knew what was going to happen, like at the end of turn 3. So I think they were both playing very cautious until their support had arrived. The only thing that they didn't know that I kept from them is where I would be ambushing on the board. I had kind of decided it would be on the 2 far ends before things had started, but they didn't have that knowledge, so they couldn't specifically set up to that effect. But I think just knowing how the 2 of them play, I certainly believe that they played more defensively than they might have otherwise played, knowing that that was coming. But it was a good, kind of a good way to do things with the Tritons of Tal Creach coming into the story. Now we've certainly pushed to the end result of what the Saurians want. So once we get back to the narrative, things are going to kind of ramp up and come to the end of at least their story, and then we can get back to the dwarves and maybe some of the others. But we did decide for at least a week or two, we are going to just kind of play around outside of the narrative for a little while, test some things that we hadn't been doing before, and kind of take that time to work up where the story is going from here. So we are going to still have games and still have videos. They're just going to be a little different, hopefully. I've got some interesting ideas for a couple of lists I want to play, and so we're going to step away from that for just a little bit while we're cooking up the next phase of the narrative. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this one being a little different, a little unique. If you have any thoughts, comments about the scenario, the setup we had, any thoughts for future scenarios, those would be welcome as well. That'd be pretty awesome. And hopefully that you guys have stayed with this, because this video is going to be like an hour long because of how the battle went. Last note, I will have the link to my Patreon down below. Thank you for those who have decided to donate. Anyone who would like to, you're more than welcome to. Go out, check it down below, help support us in having this hobby and in making these videos, and hopefully getting out to some more tournaments before the end of the year. So hope you guys enjoyed this one, and we will catch you on the next one.